Indicted Fiction, the most untrue crime podcast out there. Everything you're about to hear is fictional, but the feelings you may experience are 100% real. The Case of Adam's Murder, Episode 4. Discovery, recorded October 24th. She lives in the same fucking apartment complex as us. Apartment 73A. Woke up bright and early just to fiddle with Adam's phone. Turns out his password was a little more complicated than I expected. Instead of it being his birthday like I thought, it was in fact the date we got Mr. Chubbs, which was only a few days after Adam's 12th birthday. May they both rest in peace. I quickly found Chantel, considering she's the only girl in Adam's phone, and scrolled through their text messages. They were seeing each other for sure, but by Dr. Blue's description, I thought Adam was getting ready to propose. She seemed mildly interested, giving 1 or 2 word responses while Adam asked a lot of questions, some pretty embarrassing. Here's something that made me laugh until I realized how sad it really was. "What's your favorite flower?" Adam asked at 8:54 p.m. "Don't have one," Chantel responded at 12:13 a.m. "Well, what am I supposed to bring you?" Adam asked at 12:14 a.m. "Something fun," she said at 12:56 a.m., followed by a winky face and a pill emoji. I laughed at Adam's willingness to bring her flowers until I saw just how cruel this girl was. She really wasn't a good influence after all. I couldn't find her address, and after accidentally reading some pretty personal texts, I decided to search their chat instead. Typing in address got me nothing. House was just as useless. Place didn't help either. After 10 more tries, I was worn down to looking up synonyms for home and address. No use. None of them brought anything up. I wondered where this girl lived, sitting on my bed and looking out at Smith's hard stuff. Out of the selfies I had seen her send Adam, I didn't recognize this girl. Then again, she wasn't anything special. I guess it made sense that Adam would be into a shallow girl. He never really thought about his own well-being all that often. I wondered if she had ever been in our apartment, and that's when I searched apartment. "I'm in apartment 73A, followed by a duck-faced selfie. I was just glad it wasn't another tit pic. 73A was all the way across the apartment complex in the newer buildings. I could be there in 5 minutes. Well, that's if I rode my bike really fast, but I chose to walk. I grabbed one of Adam's chains, one of the ones with the green stains in the creases, and stuffed it in my back pocket. A little gift from the grave might soften her up enough to talk. Or so I thought. Adam's gun sat heavy in the pocket of my cargo pants. I was wearing the ones my mother calls boyish, but they concealed the weapon well. 7 bullets in the mag and a secondary mag in my back pocket, just like Adam used to carry. As I approached the door, I noticed the doormat that said blessed and the fuchsia-colored curtains in the windows. It was bound to be a fun day. She answered the door in a nightgown short enough to see just the crust of her butt cheeks. I think it was something my mom calls lingerie. "I don't want any Girl Scout cookies," she said, trying to close the door. I told her I wasn't here for that, and she told me she wasn't interested in my religion. So I flashed Adam's chain and said, "I've got bad news." Her mouth dropped open when she saw the chain, and she quickly asked where I got that. Despite my instincts, I asked if I could come inside. Hesitating, she let me in. Those fuchsia curtains were only the beginning. I couldn't keep my eyes in one place for too long. From the tiger-striped couch to the clearly faux polar bear rug, this place came straight from an 80s porno, or so I've heard. She told me to sit down, and just in time to complete the porno, a man walked in from the back room, wearing only a leopard print thong. I got the sense she enjoyed animal print. Even her nightgown had a peacock feather print on it. She rushed him back into the room and closed the door, telling him she had some business to discuss. Again, she asked where I got the chain as I handed it to her. It was on Adam's nightstand. Her eyes narrowed on me, and she snapped, "As it should be. Who are you to take it from him?" I asked her how she knew of the chain. She said she gave it to him as a gift and asked in return why it was any of my business. "I'm Adam's sister, Abigail." Her gaze did not soften. "And in case you didn't know, Adam's dead." She covered her mouth with her hand and closed her eyes. Calmly, she said, "No, I had no idea. We had his funeral yesterday." At this point, I really felt no remorse for her. She cried. I had no tears to shed with this woman, but I told her that I spoke to one of Adam's close friends, not wanting to relay to her that Adam had a counselor, and he said that Adam was very fond of her. She smiled lightly, and that's when the man came out of the room fully dressed. He slipped her something, and I watched her count what it was. Before I could stop myself, I asked, Was Adam a customer? She looked at me with wide eyes, shaking her head. No. Tears ran down her dark cheeks in rivers as she caught her breath. The man left without a word, closing the door silently behind him. No, Adam was my everything. I sat there quietly as she told me what she could through tears. Here's what I can recollect. She had met Adam through Slim. Slim is Chantel's uncle, and for a while he lived with her in her apartment. One day, Slim brought Adam back to her place for a beer, but she thinks Slim was trying to set them up. It worked. Adam was my knight. Her words, not mine. He was going to get clean. I was going to get clean. He was going to get a job, and I was going to be right there. I helped him with his resumes. I applied to some of the same jobs, but we never got picked. She looked down at the wad of cash in her hand and threw it on the carpet forcefully. I hate this life. She was crying hard now. Adam was more than just a party friend or a fuck buddy. We were in it together. We wanted out. She picked up a wristband from the side table beside the recliner she was sitting on and handed it to me. It said, 1 day sober, 1 day closer to redemption. She continued on. I attended rehab like we were supposed to. I was so mad when he didn't show up. When he didn't answer my calls, I thought he had ghosted me. She asked when, how, why, and where he had died. I could only answer that they found his mangled body at Star Bend on October 17th. She perked up. I was at Star Bend the night before, and I saw someone there. They show detectives in movies chasing clues, but they don't describe how it really feels to learn something about a case you're working on. Maybe the excitement was because I'm related to the dead, but nonetheless, I needed to know more. I didn't bother asking why she was there. I was sure it was related to her work. She said 2 men got into a car. They appeared to have come from the forested area around Star Bend. I asked her to describe the car, and she went on to describe the car that Joel had waved at when we were having lunch. I'm not 100% sure that it's the same car. I'm not very good with makes and models, but there was one thing that was different about this car. It was all black with tinted windows. Very common in this area, but the trim was gold. She noticed this too as the car she was in lit up the trim as it drove by. Don't trust Joel. I felt that I couldn't trust anyone, even this girl that claimed Adam was her everything. So I kept it all to myself, despite her questioning eyes. I asked if that was everything she had seen, and she said they quickly got inside and sped off. She didn't catch a license plate and only had a vague description of the 2 men. I wrote it down nonetheless. 2 very tall men, probably over 6 feet tall, one wearing a black hoodie and the other in a red hoodie. They had to be Adam's killers, or at least whoever dumped him off. It was then that I realized I should have gone to the crime scene sooner. It was then that I realized I didn't know much about this case. Was Adam killed on scene or somewhere else? With nothing more to offer me, I left Chantel's in a hurry, dropping off the chain and my phone number. I told her to call me if she had any more information to offer or if she needed a shoulder to cry on. I really only meant the first one. Welcome to Winchester County. Wild folk tales spring from this odd, backward place nestled in the northeastern corner of Mississippi. With harrowing figures like the Mongrel, the Phantom in the Pines, the Kudzu King, and more, the residents have a deep and abiding respect for the strange land they find themselves in. Whether miracles or atrocities, one thing you can count on here is the impossible occurs with alarming frequency. Written by R.K. Latch, the Winchester County Legends series of novels and novellas are devoted to some of the strangest myths and legends of this peculiar and wholly unique plot of land. Told through different time periods, the books can be read in any order and serve well as standalone reads. Find out more at rklatch.square.site or search R.K. Latch on Amazon. I rode my bike to the police department, thanking the cool October weather. Detective Bill's office was a wreck, and I wondered how he ever got any work done or any cases solved. That's because he didn't. We spoke briefly before I got the feeling I wasn't going to get very far with him. He pulled out Adam's case file right in front of me, but wouldn't show me any of the documents. This made me uneasy. He said it was top secret information, like I was some child. Little did he know I'm excellent at distractions and not afraid to break the law. I mean, I was in a police station with an unregistered gun in my pocket. We have no more information on Adam's case, but we're working as hard as we can. I loved that the statement made me nauseous as I set my plan into action. I turned away to cough, covering my mouth with my hand and slipping a finger down my throat. The icing on the cake was that the room smelled of turkey lunch meat, and as my finger hit my uvula, I saw the turkey sandwich sitting on his desk. Up came 2 dark cups of coffee onto the deep blue carpeting. He looked at me with wide eyes and rushed out of the room, mumbling something about paper towels, clearly disgusted. I guess any chance of us going on a date is squashed. I snatched the file, shoved it into my bag, and ran. Today was a successful day, but I know I have a limited amount of time with this thing. I rode out to Star Bend and have already photographed all the documents while sitting in this shithole parking lot. Star Bend is a boat launch, by the way. It sits on the backside of a community called Plumas Lake. That's where the uppity people live. The closest thing to a lake here is the Feather River, which is what Star Bend launches into. It's a dirty river that could kill you in a few minutes, but people like it here. Surrounding the parking lot is a forested area full of willows and cottonwoods. This is where Adam's body was found. I'm probably sitting right where the killers were parked. Now to go through the paperwork while I still have it on hand. Sifting through this folder, I'm not learning much about Adam or his case. The first documents in here are actually his rap sheet, which is full of things I already knew about Adam. Assault on a police officer, age 12. That's a bit much considering the officer swung at him first. Armed robbery, age 14. Okay, first of all, he was armed with a butter knife, and the cashier almost shot him before a police officer inside the gas station detained Adam. Moving on. Oh. Somehow the photograph of the crime scene isn't as bad as seeing him at the morgue. The blood looks fresh, so he had to have been killed then immediately dumped. It doesn't look like he was killed here. His hands were tied behind his back, a gag in his mouth, a blindfold over his eyes, and his feet were duct taped together. God, they filleted him with bullets. Based on his surroundings in the photo, I think I can find where he was at. They posted him up beside a really large stump. The rest of the documents are useless. They haven't got a single suspect, and it doesn't look like they collected any DNA from Adam's body or his bindings. I may or may not stay up late watching forensic shows. So it's off to see where Adam was dumped. Adam and I used to ride through here on our bikes. Speaking of, I need to lock mine up. Okay, Adam really did love this place. We would hang out here often, which is why it's so tragic that they would dump his body here. In fact, the stump in the photo looks familiar, and if I'm not wrong, it's not too far from the path. Adam used to hop his bike up on this stump and hop off, something I could never learn. We had many lunches there, and there are his initials carved into the side. There's still police tape here, but the wind has blown it down into the dirt. His blood is still puddled here, but not enough to indicate he was murdered in this spot. It had to have happened somewhere else. I don't want to be here anymore. I feel sick and anxious. I came and saw what I needed to. Now I have to leave. Did the killers know he loved this place? Did they know he smoked his first joint on this stump? Or that he made everyone who came here carve their initials into the stump they laid his body next to? Or was it all a coincidence? Don't trust Joel. God, did Joel do it? Could Joel really be the one who dumped his best friend here? Joel is pretty tall. Not over 6 feet, but at least 5'11". And he's got tons of hoodies. Could Chantel have seen him? But why Joel? We were arguing that night. Could a spiff really have killed Adam? Something as small as an argument? Are those legs? Oh my God. There's a body. I called the police, but she was already dead. Looked to have been dead for a while. I recognized her as the butcher at a little Mexican mart down the street from our apartment building. Poor Sola. I noticed in recent years she looked to have been using, and now she suffered the same fate as Adam. Her thin arms had been bound in orange rope, appearing to be the same as the rope that was found around Adam's wrists. Her body was bare of anything except shredded and bloodied underwear, and her feet were duct taped as Adam's were. From where her breasts used to be to her hips was shredded, and upon first looking at Adam's injuries, I believed it to be hundreds of bullet wounds. But I was wrong. The autopsy report was no help, simply stating his heart had been torn open. It didn't state by what, and I don't know how the coroner here hasn't been arrested for hindering a police investigation. Looking at Sola's body gave me new insight. There were bullet wounds, but that wasn't what killed her. First, she had been ripped open. By the direction of the wounds on her body, which I'm currently comparing the photos I took of Sola and the photo from Adam's case file, they were laid on something. Or something was laid on them, and it caught and pulled their flesh in one direction, like a giant chainsaw. The bullet holes appear on the surface of these tears. Adam and Sola suffered greatly. Could they be connected? Their deaths were identical. Now I need to know if she was using the same stuff this Ricardo was selling, and I have a plan to find out. The killers killed her just in the same way as Adam, and the officers on scene had a lot of obvious suspicion towards me. I was smart enough to climb a tree and stash the gun in a hollow, but forgot about the case file in my bag. There was a lot on my mind. A deputy found it and called over Detective Bill as they were taking photos of Sola. Lucky for me, something that made me guilty also alibied my reasoning for being at Star Bend. I was obviously curious about the case, and in their kind hearts, the officers decided to give me a warning and send me home. I was even escorted home in one of their SUVs, to the surprise of my parents who were out on the balcony when I arrived. There's a lot spinning around in my head right now, so I just need to say it all. Joel is definitely a suspect, and that hurts me to even think that. I don't know as much about Adam as I thought I did, but maybe Chantel does. She is an asset. Adam suffered so much. He was ripped to shreds, and the police here don't care. The police are not my friends right now. I'm doing their job. Mom and Dad are worried about me. They asked why I got escorted home, and I just told them that I was too tired to bike home from the store. I don't think they believed me. I'm on thin ice. I need to get Adam's gun from Star Bend, and soon. I need to talk to Ricardo, but I'm not 100% sure my original plan will work. I'm a local. Almost everyone here can recognize me, so I can't just go buy drugs from this guy. But I know someone who can. Yeah, shit, I need to write this down. Chantel may know Ricardo. Why didn't I ask her that? I'm still confused about something with her. I didn't see anything about them getting clean in the text messages. Maybe I'll read more. I don't think I can fully trust her yet, but she's the closest thing I've got to Adam's secret life right now. Oh, and last night Chuck asked if we could have lunch tomorrow. I said yes. I have to keep him close. He could fill in some of the blanks I've got, and I've got so many. Like, what could have torn Adam open? That wasn't from getting run over, and I don't think any human could do that, even with a saw of some kind. Honestly, it made me think of how people get hung up in escalators and then torn to shreds. Yeah, it had to be a machine, right? Shit, this is hard. I feel so useless. I haven't asked anyone the right questions. I haven't been timely with finding clues. All I have are these little pieces of string, and somehow I have to piece it back into the rope that'll lead me to the killer. Okay, that's dramatic, but I literally only have the description of a car and 2 anonymous figures. I don't know what or who killed Adam, or Sola for that matter. I know Adam had a new dealer, and who's to say if he's guilty? His best friend is selling too. Those pills, all those pills. I'm so dumb. Joel is selling the same stuff Ricardo is. Or was Joel really Adam's new dealer? I can't think straight. All the questions the officers asked me are still floating around in my head. Why are you here? Do you know this woman? Where have you seen her before? They're all so elementary. How can I solve this case if no one around me is trying? It's late. I'm exhausted. Mom told me she has a surprise for me tomorrow. I can only imagine what it is. I hope to God it's not another cat. I hate cats. At least I'll get to see Chuck tomorrow. Maybe he can help me make sense of everything. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next Friday for Adam's Murder, Episode 5, Confirmation. If you'd like to read the transcribed audio diary of Abigail Drummer, go to my website, authoralianapoe.com/blog. Each episode is posted on my blog under Indicted Fiction. Don't forget, Adam's Murder will be published as a paperback and ebook October 7th, 2022, when the finale of Indicted Fiction Season 1 airs. Pre-order begins on August 19th, 2022. So be sure to subscribe to my website, authoralianapoe.com.